Dave Rossi. The hurricane is back. One of our favorite podcast guests. I think you're now breaking the record with your fourth appearance, if I'm not mistaken. And boy, the notepad is lengthy. We have all kinds of directions we're going to take it. And I'm just wondering how everything's going for you, and glad to connect again.
Well, let me just say, I want to be like Brad Kearns and break records. So if that's what we're doing, I'm fulfilling my dreams, fulfilling my wishes, and breaking records like Brad Kearns.
It's all about breaking records, man.
And
Doing
thanks for
something,
having
get
me.
you going. And we had some exchanges that were really fascinating to me. And one of them was your nonstop hurricane energy level. And anyone who's around you can see this. The motor mouth will go without interruption, and the enthusiasm for all aspects of life. And I know this is an awakening for you, and anyone who's read your book, realizes that you were in that rut in your past life. And I'm jealous of that, because I was just complaining to you before we hit record that, I have some great workouts. I feel great out there. And then I crash and burn. I have 3 days of just exhaustion. And then I'm coming back, and I want to be a health expert and help motivate and inspire people to do things right. But I still identify in myself, hey, there's always ways to optimize. You asked me about my sleep. My sleep is fantastic. But there could be some other areas. And one of them is that emanating that loving spirit that brings you energy. And I think that's where we left off on the email exchange, where you said you're loving life. More energy comes into you, even if you've had a long day. And we all can reference this because we've had a long, crappy day, and we sit in traffic, and then we walk into the wonderful, exciting party gathering, and we're full of energy, right? So it's not really that we're exhausted. It's just that we don't like traffic jams and busy, stressful days, but we can snap our fingers and come out of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the things I really wanted to share with you, and it's funny that you started talking about energy levels. Energy is a word that gets tossed around a lot, and I'm talking about day-to-day energy in terms of approaching your behavior and driving your car and talking to people and approaching exercise or whatever. I'm not talking about vibrational energy or spiritual energy or emotional energetic signatures. I'm talking about, hey, it's 6 a.m. and I'm ready to go, and let's go, and whatever. That's kind of energy that you're talking about. And God, meditation helps so much for that. And that's why I'm so surprised you're not meditating. And so I kind of wanted to share that and talk why you're not meditating, and let's use energy as a motivation. That's a great segue into it.
Right. This if we talk long enough, it could be the title of the episode. Why the heck isn't Brad meditating? He's trying everything else.
Yeah.
And I think I'm so fond of this morning routine that I talk about, and it feels like a meditative experience to me, because I launch into this sequence where all I'm doing is counting through the reps of the various moves. You can see it on YouTube. We'll link it in the show notes. People have heard me talk about it enough, but I'm doing 40 scissor kicks, and then 20 frog legs in each direction, then 20 scissors, then I'm doing 20 mountain climbers. And I've tried before to listen to a podcast while I'm doing my thing so I can multitask and be more productive. And what happens is I lose count, I lose focus, and then I have to start over. That's my penalty. And so I do kind of have a glimpse of the benefits and the wonders of starting your day, especially first thing in the morning, with something that you could characterize as mindful, where I'm right there just doing something. You could maybe judge it as boring if you want to, but I've gotten to the point now where it's such a habit that I don't judge it as hard or easy or boring or exciting. I just do it, and I realize it gives me great benefit. And I suppose I sound like someone who is enjoying meditation too, because it's kind of like the same story.
Well, I'm talking about silent meditation, and there are some really big differences between a guided meditation.
Like a app, you mean?
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
difference between an active meditation like walking or gardening or surfing or bike riding or running. Those are a form of meditation. I'm talking about silent meditation. Now, what I want to explain to you what I heard you say is that your morning routine is really busy and a lot of meditation takes place during your morning routine. And that's great. Okay. But the purpose of meditation as I explain this in my class a bit, is imagine if you had a boat towing a giant net, and that net is capturing all kinds of information. How many reps have I done for my stretches? Am I doing my morning routine correctly? What time is it? Am I going to finish my morning routine by the time I need to hop on the bike and ride, or before I have my next podcast, or whatever I'm doing? And this fishing net is catching all kinds of information, stimulus, questions, busyness, right? Did I call so-and-so? Do I have enough gas in my car? How long is this going to last? Am I going to get there on time? Did I call? You know what I'm talking about, right? Silent meditation is basically just unplugging that fishing net. Imagine all of this wide net, this incredibly broad net capturing all kinds of stimulus, and you just unplug it for a little while. Imagine what that would do to your brain to say, we're just going to practice. This is the important thing. We're going to practice, 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 just like swinging a tennis racket. We're going to practice not thinking. Now, the brain is pretty wired to think. I mean, it automatically always thinks. You just can't all of a sudden not think. It will automatically think, just like you automatically breathe. But just like practicing breath and practicing life, we can practice thought. We can practice eliminating thought. We can practice ignoring thought. We can practice reducing thought. And when you do that, your brain does not focus on all of the things within that fishing net any longer. The brain says, we have shit to do. Let's go heal. Let's go mend. Let's go be calm. Let's go connect. Let's do other things besides think about who to call or what to do or what count am I on. And that's why silent meditation is so different than a walking meditation or a guided meditation or even a kundalini or energy meditation. Silent meditation is an entirely different ball of wax.
And you're recommending that as your favorite modality, or do you like people to mix through them? Or,
I think people can do different things at different times. I think for me, I did some guided. I did some, and even listening to music would be guided. I would guide meditation, and I would put music on, and all of a sudden I'm thinking about a beach with a girlfriend or a past relationship or a friend or a family member or some vignette, and my mind begins to wander. And that's not what meditation for me is about. It's about stopping the mind from overthinking, practicing not overthinking. And I found myself reminiscing, and that really wasn't what I wanted to do with that time. So I said, look, I'm going to stop with the music. I don't need to think about X, Y, and Z, whether it was a positive memory or even a sad memory. The goal is to unplug that fishing net, unplug stimulus, and let the full power of my brain work for me and heal me and focus on me, not to focus on the outside world, not to focus on who I had to call or what bill I had to pay or how much money was in my bank account or that I eat the right foods. Oh, shoot, I shouldn't have had that last night. Is that going to cause weight gain? That piece of cake that I had, did it have gluten in it? I don't remember if it had gluten in it. Well, it didn't have that much sugar. It was kind of an almond.
right. Poor guy's got his arms crossed. He's sitting on a cushion and he's thinking about, his
right. We
order
want to
last night.
unplug that. We want to stop that. We want to, and it doesn't, just because you try to meditate doesn't mean that happens. Meditating is practicing that. You're practicing trying to turn off those voices. And when you turn those voices down, or you practice ignoring them and you practice letting them pass, your brain gets used to that muscle memory, and your brain begins to say, oh, this is time to do nothing and not think. We're not going to think about bills or people or food or diet or how much I weigh or did I lose that half a pound or is it water weight or whatever it is. And your brain gets used to that. And that quiet moment is where all of the magic happens. That power of your brain working for you, not the power of your brain processing the information of the world. That difference is where the power of meditation really comes into play.
So we understand it's difficult and can be frustrating, and the recommendation is when the thought pops in about the gluten that you ordered last night, you don't judge it and let it go. Is that what we're looking for? We're not going to have a blank slate for 20 minutes. We know we're going to be battling against the busy brain, especially if we're wired to be, frenetic pace, like most of us are pushed into these days.
Yeah. So, let's use spirituality again and kind of bring that word back into the conversation, not from a woo-woo perspective, but bring spirituality in as a differentiation between physical and non-physical. Physical being your body, your brain, your chemicals, the hormones, the peptides, the neurotransmitters, things that you can put into a jar,
Mhm.
anxiety, depression, even happiness in the form of serotonin and dopamine. We're talking about chemicals. And the non-physical side of us, the thoughts, the intuition, not the rationalization and menageries that our subconscious mind plays on us. That's body and physical and not a spiritual event. I'm talking about the really truly non-physical aspects or makeup of us. And to make this, to accent what I'm talking about, if you could just for a second say hello to yourself in your brain. Just say, hey, Brad Kearns, I need a haircut. Just say that to yourself. And you could do that, couldn't you? You could
Sure.
actually, yeah. And you could actually hear it. You could hear yourself say that. The non-physical aspects I'm talking about is not the person saying those words, and it's not the person listening to those words. It's the entity that's actually observing that whole process taking place. Hey, I, Brad Kearns, said this, and I, Brad Kearns, listened to this. That seat, that place of observing that you did those actions is the non-physical stuff that I'm talking about. Okay. Now, when we talk about meditation, we're trying to connect to that aspect of us. We're trying to turn everything else off. We're trying to turn the mentation off. We're trying to turn the chemicals off. And that's ultimately what takes a lot of practice. And we practice that by sending thoughts down the road. So a thought
Mhm.
pops in, we let it go. Now, for me personally, the body, the physical side, its algorithm is survival. All it wants to do is save your life. So that does not want to stop. So sometimes when you meditate, that biology, that biological side, that subconscious mind is going to get more active. It's literally going to drive you crazy. I would get nauseous and actually get up and almost go throw up. It was so powerful for me.
What the racing thoughts you mean when you
Oh
tried
yeah.
to meditate? Is that what you're
Oh yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they got worse than when you were sitting on the bench at the park, not trying to meditate,
Yep.
but actually kind of drifted into, you drifted near the goal without trying, and then you really try, and it gets frustrating.
Well, yeah, certain thoughts do get turned down when I meditate or when I started. And even today it happens sometimes. So when I'm sitting at the park, I'm contemplating and I'm reflecting, and maybe I'm thinking about happy thoughts and how great that meal was last night and what a great run I had or a great lift that I had. And I'm like, oh, this is so great. I'm so happy. But my mind is busy, my mind is active, and my mind is thinking. When I start to meditate, my mind begins to get more active. And it's not necessarily more active because I'm thinking about fewer things. It gets more active because I'm telling my body, the biology, the physical side to turn off and is going to resist that off button. It's like the candles with the birthday cake. You blow them out and they keep on coming back. You blow them again, they come back. It's kind of like that. It just keeps on coming back. And so for me in the beginning, I would literally get nauseous. My body did not want to let go of mentation. It did not want to let go of the algorithm of survival. And that's a very spiritual thing to tell your body, we don't need to survive right now. Just stop thinking.
Mhm.
You don't need to save me. I'm going to spend 20 minutes doing this, and you're going to have to let me do this. Just let go. And it does not let go easy.
What kind of environment have you created for these sessions?
Whenever I have time environment, I make time for
Oh,
it. I mean, I don't know that I need anything special. You don't need anything special. A big, you know, supporter or teacher. He's not the inventor, but Maharaji Mahesh was the spokesperson, teacher, self-proclaimed teacher of transcendental meditation. And he would say, I don't understand why people don't meditate. All you need is a chair.
yeah.
That's all you need. And you really just need to set the time aside and a place to sit. You don't want to lie down because the goal is to be active. The goal is to
Mm.
keep your mind alert. The goal is to make your mind busy in the terms of alertness, but you want to make it alert by the active elimination of thoughts. Now, thoughts are tiring.
And so are your eyes half lidded instead of closed? You're sitting in a chair or on a rock, or is it a
The
certain
physical
time of
stuff,
day?
yeah, the physical stuff is easier. Where you sit or how you sit or the time of day. I can pretty much meditate anywhere because when it's loud, I think, okay, that's just more practice
Mm-hmm.
of effort to ignore those noises. The whole point is to ignore the mental noises, not the physical noises. And frankly, the mental noises are a little bit tougher to ignore, aren't they?
If it's noisy, I suppose. There's, it's a busy train station. It sounds like a challenge.
Well, would it be easier for you to ignore loud noises of a train or noises in your mind of your voice talking to yourself? What would be harder for you to turn down or
Yeah, I
ignore?
think the internal voice for
Yeah,
sure.
right. So when you're practicing turning the internal voice off, and I don't want to say turn it off because you don't turn it off. You basically learn to ignore it. You learn to send those thoughts down the road. And before the next thought comes is that little space of quiet, that little space of nothingness. And meditation isn't about learning how to do that. It's about learning how not to stop yourself from doing that. So we're trying to remove the things that prevent us from meditating, not actually how to meditate.
That sounds like your Dave Rossi happiness advice as well.
A little bit the same, yeah. I mean, things stop us from where we kind of naturally want to go, right? Our body stops us
Hmm.
from our diet plan. The busyness of our mind stops us from calming down. The anxiety and the fear stops us from seeing happiness. I mean, that's kind of why alcohol works, right? It shields it filters out the things that make us unhappy. So we have these brief moments of happiness, albeit synthetic, borrowed, and not, someone that has any longevity.
Oh,
But
in the
that's,
case of alcohol, is that what you're
yeah,
talking about?
yeah.
Or
In the case of
substances
alcohol,
or
yeah,
distractions, whatever, addictions, I guess.
right.
Right. Um,
And
and
music
so,
can do that in meditation. It can distract you. When the goal isn't to be distracted, it's to take this thought and send it down the road and just say, I'm not going to think about what I ate last night. I'm not going to think about what I have to do today. And then that little tiny space is meditation. That little tiny space is when your brain just goes, oh, and then a thought will come very quickly after that. You
yeah.
go, okay, that was so cool. Oh, that was really cool. I didn't think about anything for like a
Yeah.
second.
Wow, I
Oh,
succeeded. Hey,
right.
I'm
And then you're
doing
like, well,
awesome.
now I'm thinking again because I'm talking about it. So wait,
Yeah.
okay. Let me try it again.
Get,
Let me try it again. And then
guess what happens to an athlete when that kicks in? When, oh my gosh, I'm having the best golf round of my life on the 16th hole. Oh man, push that
yep,
thought away, people. Or I'm doing the e-foil, where you rise above the water on the
yep.
motorized board, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting it, I'm flying, and then I look down to see the speed I'm going at, and that's when I wipe out spectacularly. Is like when you lose that flow state by
Right.
judging it or identifying it. Yeah,
Well,
brutal, man.
there's some things that talk about the average person has like 60 or 70,000 thoughts per day.
Right, and Bruce Lipton says 98% of them are identical to yesterday, and 80% of them are negative, or something like that.
Right. And there's some statistic that the professional athlete or the elite athlete has 7,000 or 6,000 per day. Right.
You're kidding? 10 times,
Yeah,
tenfold less than the
they
average
can
Joe.
going into flow, like you talked about, into focus, into a state of focus and flow. Your brain is not thinking about what you ate last night or what you're doing or who loves you or who doesn't love you or did I pay this or I didn't pay that or right. You're just kind of focused on your craft and it's very focused. That's the state of flow that a lot of psychologists talk about. And that takes practice.
So you have your meditation practice for 20 minutes or whatever, and
Yeah.
then for the rest of your busy day, and you're a good guy to as an example, because you have this multifaceted, extremely challenging career of presiding over these massive projects that have many, many moving parts. And so I imagine that you're going to process a shit ton of information in the course of a single workday. But are you leveraging your meditation skills in some way when the stuff hits the fan and you start to your cell phone starts to buzz and people are in your face or whatever's going on?
Well, I think for everybody, this statement might be true that the most critical aspect of anyone's success, certainly with negotiating or sales or interaction or behavior or any professional setting, even in an interpersonal setting, it's your ability to stay calm will have a huge impact on your ability to navigate a situation, whether it's an angry spouse or a child. Boy, children are just great curriculum for this too. But if I'm practicing sending thoughts down the road and practicing waiting for that pause before the
Mm,
next one comes,
mm,
like swinging a tennis racket, I'm building a muscle memory of not reacting to thoughts. So when my child says something or someone at work says something inflammatory or something happens, I'm pretty practiced at ignoring the first thought that comes to my mind. And I'm pretty practiced at saying, let's let this go. I mean, it just doesn't really go away. I mean, the words came out of the person's mouth, and
hmm
I can practice not responding
Yeah.
because I'm practiced every single day letting thoughts pass. And because I'm practiced letting thoughts pass every single day in morning and night in meditation, I'm able to let thoughts pass during my active day.
Yeah. And it seems to me there's a distinction between not reacting. You're putting on a good face for the world, but then inside it's driving you crazy, and all you're doing is not responding, but you're still being triggered uh, because someone said something to you that you don't appreciate or offended you or whatever. Like there's still an internal reaction, and that would be a nice goal, to just let everything, all the water flow off your back all day long, right?
Well, okay, so I'm going to, yes, absolutely. And I'm going to give you a little bit more data with that. So there's an absolutely wonderful book called Never Split the Difference by an FBI negotiator named Chris Voss. And a
Oh,
good
I
friend of
talked
mine.
to that guy on his podcast.
It's a great book.
Yeah.
And
Never
he
split
looks,
the difference, huh?
yeah. Now, a friend of mine read that book and he also read my book. And when I was reading Chris Voss's book, I thought to myself, God, what Chris Voss said is the single biggest failure to negotiating is staying calm. But his book doesn't talk about how to stay calm. So my friend who also read my book said, hey, I loved your book because it gave me 7 techniques on how to change my belief structure, how to change my paradigm to stay calm. And now that I could stay calm, I could apply a lot of Chris Voss's techniques in Never Split the Difference. And the thing about meditation is it's just that vehicle that lets you practice some of the 7 steps in my book or the checklist that I have. It's a vehicle of saying, hey, just like Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response is that small moment in time where all of our growth comes from. If you can't grab that small moment in time, you're kind of in trouble. Meditation helps you practice grabbing that small moment in time without actually reacting. So, not reacting is the first step. The second step is taking that small moment in time and changing your paradigm, changing your belief structure, changing your attachment to the outcome, changing your fear for the outcome, changing your lack of acceptance of the situation that's right in front of you. So now you've grabbed that moment in time, you practice at not reacting, and now you're practicing changing your subconscious patterns, changing your paradigm, changing your beliefs, changing your intentions, checking in with your intentions. And now, as this over time, not only do you have the power not to react verbally, but you also have the power not to react emotionally. Now, Eckhart Tolle talks about this in his book. Your words are the consummation of your thoughts.
Hmm.
So if you stop the words from coming out, you're killing the thought in its tracks. You're not actually consummating the thought. You still
Mm,
have the thought, but you're
mm.
not becoming vocal with it. It's the end of the thought, the words.
It has a better chance of becoming a fleeting thought rather than an obsessive thought that's going to turn you into resentful, uh, down into a negative spiral.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about your experience with Chris Voss. That must have been a great podcast. I think he's remarkable.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think he was just talking to us about the 2 meals a day book,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure if it was aligned with his typical podcast content, but um,
Well, if you get a chance, read that book. In
yeah.
terms of, and you know, for me, I've read it a couple times, and the hardest thing comes down to, shoot, I wish I would have applied that technique that Voss talks about in his book, and then you say to yourself, I wish I could have picked that up in this situation. That would have really been helpful. And you want to remember those techniques and use them. It just takes practice. And if you get swept away with emotion, if you get swept away with anger or even happiness, you get fooled by thinking something's really fantastic and that maybe it's really not. You lose
Hmm.
that opportunity to seek a higher level of perspective, to see things more for what they're really worth, not for how you wish to perceive them.
Hmm.
So meditation really helps slow all that down because you're practicing slowing down mentation. So in real life, you're actually slowing down mentation to the point where you can apply choice or will, free will, or devotion or dedication. You're able to stop that reactive behavior and then apply what you really want to apply.
And I guess in contrast, if we're really wrapped up in hectic pace of modern life, overstimulated, hyperconnected, we're simply reacting and operating from subconscious programming for most of the time, just like Bruce Lipton argues with scientific validation. All we are is like a a machine reacting based on our programming. They a lot of times reference the childhood programming from ages 0 to 7, and then we
Right.
just set forth repeating these bad patterns, even though we don't realize it until later.
So that's what I'm talking about. That's in the body. You're living the body. You're living the subconscious mind. You're living out those programs. You're responding to the hormone of hunger. You're responding to the hormone of sadness. You're responding to the hormone of depression or anxiety. Your body is reacting, and it's only reacting because your brain is sensing a stimulus and comparing that stimulus to the programming that Lipton's talking about, and then the brain produces that chemical. Okay, now the point is to get off that train, to get off that pattern, to stop that, just to stop it cold in its tracks. And the thing about, I'm going to tie back to meditation again from a physiological standpoint, you're getting off of the sympathetic nervous system and you're getting onto the parasympathetic nervous system. When you unplug your brain, when you practice unplugging your brain, you're turning off all that mentation. You're saying, stop stress, stop anxiety, stop depression, stop worry, stop doubt, stop low self esteem. Let's just turn all of that off. Let's practice turning that off every day, 20 minutes a day, hopefully twice a day, but at least
Hmm.
once. Turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. And you're going to slowly shift your body to the parasympathetic nervous system. And you're not going to feel anxiety anymore because you're actually not mentating. It doesn't mean that the factors that are creating anxiety have gone away. It means you're just not processing that information at that time. You're practicing not processing
Hmm.
the information that makes you feel anxious.
And may that chance arise later in the day to put it into practice when you're hit in the face with the interaction with your boss that leaves you anxious usually, or whatever the example is.
Yeah, you have practice in saying, I don't need to react to this right now. And this is making me feel anxious, but I'm kind of practice at ignoring that. I'm just going to practice ignoring that right now. And I've been taught to let things unfold. Let's see what unfolds in the next hour or the next day and see what really comes of this. Maybe I misread the situation. Maybe I misunderstood the situation. Maybe they're right and I really did
Hmm.
screw up. And I got to I take that as really helpful, constructive criticism, you know? But it's
Uh,
not emotional anymore. It's not charged. It's not
yeah.
something that throws you into your sympathetic nervous system and creates lots of stress and lots of cortisol and all kinds of harmful things. It's not something that then makes you say, fuck it, I'm gonna go have that donut that I've been wanting to eat for the past week because it tastes awesome and now I'm stressed and I was told I did this poorly or I made a mistake, so I'm gonna go eat that donut. You know what I mean? You're able to control those types of landslide situations.
So I know you're you're progressing along the path to the secret to weight loss in a different direction than most people who are obsessed with the macronutrients and pricking your finger for your blood ketone values. So how does the practice of meditation kind of connect to being aligned with goals like cleaning up your diet and staying on the path for long periods of time and things like that when life gets in the way?
Well, I think lots of ways. I think all diets um, succeed and fail for the same reason, which is your ability to follow them or not follow them. um, and I think when you follow a diet religiously or from a devoted standpoint, it becomes a lifestyle, not a diet. And
Mhm.
so your ability to make those choices, to make any choice, the most important choice isn't whether I should eat this or eat that. If you if you resist something, you're going to want more of it. So now you're engaging willpower. So we want to engage devotion, not willpower.
Because willpower is known to be diminishing, fragile resource.
Well, to me, willpower is you fighting something that you kind of want.
Right. And you do that 73 times every day. And then
Right.
on the 74th time, it's 9:30 p.m. and you go for Ben and Jerry's because you've exhausted that resource.
Right. And if I want something, then it doesn't take willpower to get what you want. It doesn't
How's
take
that?
well, if I want to live a healthy lifestyle and
Mm.
that's what I want, it doesn't take any willpower to get what to make the choice of something that I naturally want. It doesn't take any willpower to want to eat a donut if you want it. If you want to eat a donut, it doesn't take any willpower to eat it. It
Mm-hmm.
takes willpower not to eat it.
Right.
So,
Right. The things you want don't require
right.
willpower. They
I'm
require
on
devotion.
right, I'm on hour 19 of my fast today. Um,
Wow.
and that's a choice. It's a choice to fast
With devotion,
with
you
devotion,
passed
and I
up some
want that.
donuts.
Right. And so if I say to myself, do I want to eat this or do I not? The biology of me will always choose the easy path.
Mm.
Your body has an algorithm to survive, and that includes food, and that includes feeling loved, and that includes all kinds of things, very complicated things of what your body thinks is matches that algorithm of survival. So if I ask my question, if I ask myself the question, do I want to be fit? It's a different question than do I want to eat a donut? My body will always want to eat something that tastes really awesome because it releases serotonin and dopamine. It's all these reward centers, and it's very easy to do that. It's a little bit more difficult to break the drive of the body, to break the drive of survival. Jumping in a cold tub, you know what this is like. That's a very spiritual event. I'm going to do something my body does not want to do, and it's incredibly therapeutic, has all kinds of medical benefits, but you're going to have to deal with some pain. Not going to hurt you, it's going to help you. But that's something your body does not want to do, and yet you do it every single morning.
Mm. Right. You're exercising devotion.
Right. And then when you practice, I call it the I choose muscle. You're developing your I choose muscle. I choose
It's
to jump in cold water. I choose to fast. I choose not to eat this. I choose to eat this. I have
right.
the power to make choices over the biological urges of my body. I have the power to choose not to react to stress or anxiety or sadness. I can have these emotions. We all do. I do. But it's what I do with them that makes a difference in my life. Not that I
Right.
succumb to them.
We could be, you know, lowly evolved creatures like our friends in the animal kingdom, and just go operate according to our instincts at all times,
Right.
and basically binge watch digital entertainment, eat whatever we want. Um,
Yeah.
spiral downward into crazy stuff, addictive behaviors and
Right.
things that are self-destructive over the long term, but provide instant gratification
Well,
all the
it's
way
like that.
through.
Yeah, it's like that study with the two marshmallow study. Have you heard that study?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
kids, yeah.
right. So you're delaying gratification, which your body wants. The ability to have choice, the ability to have power to make choice over biological urges, strong biological urges, right? Having that power to make choices offers so much success. And the kind of choices that I think you need to start with are the things in my book, the choice about acceptance and not fearing the outcome and stress. And the
Mm.
one of the biggest things to choose is how you view yourself. That's a choice. In fact, well, let's talk about a bigger choice. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. To me, the biggest choice to make is what you believe. The biggest choice you need to actually have some authority over is what you believe.
Mhm.
Because everything programmed that Lipton talks about, you didn't choose that. It's just programmed in your head.
Mhm.
Your daughter's programmed because of what she observed from 0 to 7. You can't control what she observed. There's no spam filter. It got filled. You can't control what she observed or what she didn't observe. She did. And in my book, I reference if you were raised in a red room, you might love red. Or if you're raised in a red room, you might hate red. The point is, a red room is going to affect your programming. We don't know why you love it or why some people hate it. The point is, it's just going to affect you. And choosing what you believe in, making a choice in what you believe is probably one of the most powerful choices you can make because that's the beginning of changing your programming. It's a beginning in changing your patterns. And meditation is one of those things that gives you that first step in pausing and just practicing how to pause.
Uh, and then getting good at questioning your beliefs, because we form these fixed and rigid beliefs in all different areas. And in the health and wellness scene, we have factions and we have disputed science and things that get people
Yeah.
really riled up. And I reference this emergence of the carnivore diet movement as an exercise for me in challenging my fixed and rigid beliefs and being open-minded and thinking critically to new information. Because just when we think we have all the answers and all the solutions, we're exposed to um, more information. And apparently, I think Mark Manson references this research that we're consumed for our entire lives with seeking out confirmation bias to make sure that our beliefs are locked in, whether it's our politics or our opinions about how to exercise or how to eat. And that's where I think we could
That's
run
a
into
survival
trouble.
instinct. That's a survival instinct, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's a survival instinct to know that what I'm thinking is supported by other people because what would it be like if I was all by myself alone with this thought and no one supported it? It would feel remarkably vulnerable, which is a very biological trait to be vulnerable. That vulnerability stems from the algorithm of your body trying to drive for survival. It feels weak. Even though it takes strength to be vulnerable, it feels exposed. And nobody wants to feel that way biologically. Spiritually, you don't care about it. You're like, oh, it's okay. I could be alone. I could, I'm not a slave to my hormones or my
Mhm.
thoughts. I can choose. I can choose what I believe. And frankly, we should choose things that work for us. Like I think the placebo effect is such an underrated effect in weight loss and diet that your carnivore diet works for you because you think it does.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge part. I mean, the physiological studies on one diet or another or one type of food intake and another is vastly different. And I think people are underestimating that these studies are done with people who are highly stressed and their bodies are under attack from cortisol and insulin from stress,
Yeah, the
mental,
average person, in other words.
right? The
Yeah.
mental chemical production of stress is way more harmful than what you're going to eat. I mean, granted, you're not eating really, really bad food, but I mean, that's a killer is that stress hormone and the insulin release. Everyone say, no, you don't have a fat problem. You have an insulin problem because you eat too many carbs. Well, stress is, you could fast and still gain weight. If you're always stressed,
Mm-hmm.
your body is still going to say store fat with,
Mm-hmm.
with the chemicals. And I think the second thing is a placebo. So one diet works for one person and it doesn't for another. So, find what works for you and stick with it. But rearrange your choices around what works for you and rearrange your choices around what you want to believe in, that you're choosing to believe. That's a pretty wide category there, choosing what you believe.
Right. You can uh, kind of go envision the life of your dreams and go make it happen.
But you have to believe it. I mean, Lipton talks about this in his book. The brain can actually alter DNA. And there are a lot of people that you say, oh, it's just in my DNA, I'm big boned, or it's just in my DNA, I'm born heavy, or it's just in my DNA. Well, actually not. I mean, does it need to? That's a belief. You're believing that your
Mm.
DNA is holding you back from something.
Hmm.
And a lot of people have proved through anecdotal experiences, certainly Joe Dispenza and what he's done with his body and his spine injury, and what Lipton's done with his study. If you believe that you can't do it, if you believe this is your body type, then it's going to be your body type.
Yeah, it's difficult to buy in sometimes. Um, Deepak talks about this, about how we make a new stomach lining every 6 weeks, and we make new lungs every 6 months, and a new skeleton every 12 months. And so if you have this old knee injury from high school football when you were a superstar down in the Bay Area, and your knee still hurts to this day because they botched the surgery or whatever, and Deepak says it's just the memory of the injury and the bad surgery, rather than your bone on bone, and your x-ray shows that your meniscus is all frayed. And so that part, I'm always trying to balance the manifesting message with the reality.
Well, reality is, again, your choice of beliefs.
Right.
I mean, and again, I'm not a superhero. I don't want to say that I am. And I went backpacking this last weekend, and I have a torn ACL. It was never reconstructed. I have a meniscus that's been taken out. I do have two slip discs in my back, which I was supposed to have surgery in
Mm.
2016, L5S1 and L4L5. I had surgery scheduled February. Had it. I had the epidural shot to be able to walk. And this last weekend, I had a 50-pound backpack and hiked 2,000 feet, a 5-mile hike each way. And my dad, who's 78, was getting a little tired. I picked up his pack and put it on my pack, and he had about a 40-pound pack. So I carried 90 pounds the last 2 miles with a torn ACL and torn meniscus and two slip discs, and never felt it. It was just something
Huh.
that I had to do, and it was my belief that I could handle it that enabled me to handle it. I mean, I don't have to tell you. It's a belief. It really is. I don't know. I mean, I mean, I'm not Brad Kearns and setting records with high jump, but it's true. I mean, you really can imagine whatever you want, and you can achieve it. Everyone's talking about this. It's just to the degree that you choose to believe it. And it doesn't mean if you say, oh, I believe it, the fake it until you make it, that what's his face said.
Mm.
I say believe it until you believe it. Your subconscious mind
Hmm.
has to believe it until your conscious mind tells you it enough. It's called the illusory effect. If you tell yourself something enough times, you will actually begin to believe it. Your subconscious has to come along for the ride. And if it's always naysaying consciously, then your subconscious is going to naysay as well.
And in ways that you don't even realize, right? When
Well, yeah.
you're talking about I think this idea of manifesting and turning your beliefs into reality is a lot of times pointed at wealth manifestation, and living the life of your dreams that involves Lamborghinis and beautiful homes up on the hill. And I think most people check off that train somewhere early on, because it seems so ridiculous, and thereby once they've departed that train, they're not going to they're not going to be leading there. But I'd like to dig into that a little deeper, because the way you express yourself on these matters, it really makes a lot of sense. And
Well, I mean, I'm just expressing years of heavy reading from lots of people that I cross-reference against each other, and also really heavy personal anecdotes that I've experienced. And I'm not coming to you as someone that's regurgitating other people's stuff, what I do, but I've actually experienced a lot of these things
mhm.
in my own life in terms of I believe that my knee can handle that type of backpacking situation. I
Mm-hmm.
just can't. I just believe it. I mean, it's what I needed to do. And I think when you manifest, if you're manifesting, a Lamborghini or a big house on the hill, you're kind of manifesting your biology to survive again. And manifesting doesn't really care what it is. It doesn't you're deviating from the greatest good when you want yourself to have a Ferrari. And when you're wishing that upon yourself, then you've missed the whole point. Because it kind of has to be the afterthought. It kind of has to be the reward of what you've accomplished when you manifest.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, manifesting is about, there's an author called Neville Goddard. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Neville Goddard. He's written a lot of books, and he's someone that Wayne Dyer talks a lot about. And he coined this phrase, living the wish fulfilled. So if you talk to Lipton and a lot of other people about, even David Hawkins, and the power, all of his books, the eye of the eye, Power versus Force. Emotions have an energetic signature. Now we're changing from energy of moving around every day and having tons of energy with working out and relationships. We're talking about vibrational energy. Okay. And I want to separate vibrational energy of your composition from the type of energy that an emotion has. Although they're kind of similar, if you're in a meeting and someone walks in with really negative energy, you can sense that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if somebody is a pretty positive person, but they're upset and they walk in with feeling upset, you can feel that too. Emotions have an energetic signature. Emotions vibrate at a certain level. And one of the highest vibrating emotions is love. It's the highest. And that's also a very misunderstood word, love, because people think about girlfriends at puberty, or boyfriends that they had, or love lost or love gained. And they think about love in terms of somebody else. They think about love with sex. They think about love with making me feel good, which is back to biology again. It's back to serotonin and dopamine. We're talking about love being a non-physical, connective attitude or state of being, not an emotion that's created from oxytocin or serotonin or dopamine, because those are back to body again. We're talking about spirituality. We're talking about non-physical. Love as an emotion and love as a state of being vibrate very high. It's an open-mindedness. It's a giving. It's a humility. It's a gratitude. It's kind of what binds it all together. And those energetic signatures along the scale from disappointment or anger or sadness to love, if you emanate, I don't have the Lamborghini, that's an energetic signature. So you can't manifest, I want it. You have to manifest that you have it. And that's hard to do. It's hard to do if you can't control your thoughts.
Yeah, here's what you wrote. If you form negative associations to money, like greed, anxiety, rebellion, guilt, and you're cut off from the force, you can't manifest things if you're unhappy or currently stressed. And
Yeah.
Luke Story, the Lifestylist podcast, we had a great interview, and he said that the part people don't get is that you have to be in a state of gratitude right now for wherever you are in life in order to manifest more. But if you're driving past, your neighborhood into the high rent district and feeling jealous and envious and making pot shots, and I think we have to watch our verbal very carefully on these matters, because we manifest these statements really easily, and we go through the day making self-deprecating comments, or spiteful, critical comments about whatever it is, especially maybe resentful of the disparity of wealth in developed nations these days, or whatever your game is. And so you're immediately cut off, and that makes a lot of sense, that if you're not in a state of gratitude now, you can change the channel and try to go smile at the sun and be happy to be alive.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you are negative and negative about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at yourself as a state of low self-esteem or low worth, see, the reason why desire becomes a fear is that you think you need something to be whole,
Mm.
or you think you need something to be happy, or you think you need something to be grateful for. When that is ultimately the energetic signature of fear. So how do you desire something without, quote, desiring something? Well, that's a little bit different, and that's a little bit tricky, and that takes some time to develop. And, living the wish fulfilled, you kind of have to put it in check. You kind of have to ask yourself, what's the intention behind why I want this? If the intention is because I want to have a big house in the hill because I'll feel whole, or I'll feel important, or people will love me, and when people love me, I'll feel good about myself. That's a difficult threshold to cross to get that. You know what I mean?
And even if you get it, you might still be miserable.
Yeah.
Might carry
And
your problems with you to the big house.
right. And what you said, Luke said, which is gratitude is such a great practice because there's lots and lots of detail behind that. And we may not have enough time to go into all of the detail about gratitude because it really is a spiritual practice. You're breaking from the biology. Being jealous is natural to an animal.
Mm-hmm.
Being jealous is they have that carcass and I want that carcass to eat. They have that shade. I want that shade to survive better and stay cool. It's natural for animals to compete. And in fact, even within their own pod, gorillas have, a social order. The big guy who's ruling the pod or the group gets to say, this is how we travel and this is what we do. If not, he's going to go kick your ass. That behavior is modeled from the survival of the fittest. And so when you're practicing gratitude, it goes against
Mm.
biology.
Mm.
And so what do we call it when we evolve out of our animalistic state? It's called being civilized. And when we keep going that direction, it's called spirituality. Spirituality is just a more advanced word for being civilized. We're working farther, more and more away from the animal, away from what animals do, which is fight, and they're jealous and they're competitive and they're judging,
Right.
to I'm happy they have that carcass. I'm sure mine will come. I'm happy that they have that shade. I'm sure they might share it, right? Because we don't need shade anymore. We don't need the carcass. There's like everything's available to us. We still have that animal side to us that we need to break free from. And gratitude is a wonderful practice to do that.
Yeah, I guess logistically it could get difficult because we're so buried in noise and stress and uh, consumerism and peer influences. And I know, just quickly back to your story where you were the guy who was with the bigger face in the portraits, like, who's that guy? So you lost your health, and you were, even though you had material success, you weren't in a position to be grateful, and we're kind of in that rut. And so I
Yeah.
guess, yeah, tell me about that.
I mean, I was insanely jealous of people that were more successful than me. And I was
Yeah, boy,
insanely
you hear
jealous
that a
of
lot
people
from.
that could be in better shape than I was or lose weight.
Yeah.
Um, and it was incredibly painful to feel like I didn't have any control over that. And when I let go of that is when I actually gained control. I remember just crying, saying, I just have no control. I can't lose weight. I can't do this and I can't do that. And I should have these things. And I don't. And when I stopped having those things is when I got those things.
So
I
you
just
you
see like so much disbelief.
you let go of the
I,
you
I
let go of
let
the frustration,
right. I
and
let
then
go
you
of the right.
yeah, you woke up the next day, and then you said, what are you going to choose to eat, not burdened by that negativity that you're such a failed dieter? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, I let go of the fact that being thin was important. I let go of the fact that money would make me happy. I let go of the fact that it mattered how people looked at me. Because when I let go of how people looked at me, I changed how I looked at myself. Instead of comparing myself to my own programming, I began to stop that. I began to not derive any value from how people viewed me or how I viewed myself and just let that go. I mean, it's kind of like Mark Manson's title. the subtle art of not giving a fuck, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's more than that. It's a currency that animals exchange to survive. It's that I don't want to be alone syndrome. I don't want to be the only one having this thought or the only one on this diet. Or I find a lot of strength in the majority believing that this works, right? You know, when we let go of that currency, we're letting go of the body, we're letting go of the ego, we're letting go of those drivers, and we're choosing a different path. We're not, our self-worth isn't going up or down based on what others think of us.
Mm.
And also, it's not going up or down based on what I think of myself. I don't think of
Mm-hmm.
myself as anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an important place to get to. And you said something about being stressed and how do we do this when we're so stressed? Well, that's kind of where meditation comes in, is that it's at least 20 minutes of not being stressed.
Mm-hmm.
All the factors in your life still exist when you take, cocaine and you don't feel it at that moment, right?
Yeah.
You're like, this is so great. I feel so happy,
Yeah.
right? All the factors still exist. And the thing with that is that's fully chemical. It doesn't provide any value. It provides no longevity. It absolutely destroys so many aspects spiritually and physically. But meditation is exactly the same thing. You depart from your problems. It doesn't
Mm.
mean the problems go away. It means you practice departing from them so you're better able to handle them. You're better able to work through them. You're better able to get help and be vulnerable and find ways out and find new avenues and read and learn and grow and interact and ask for help. There's so many benefits that come from being able to process that information.
Tell us about your course, how that works.
So I think for a lot of people, meditation is incredibly confusing. I did. Um, I didn't know the difference between a silent meditation and a guided meditation. I spent $1,000 on a class. It didn't really teach me.
Mm.
Um, So I thought people have the same problems. And I think people don't know, people come to me and say, oh, I can't meditate. My mind gets busy. Well, that means you need it. And that also means it's working. So I developed a course. It's kind of a how to. It's 14 days, which is like the popular, hey, 14-day challenge. It's not a challenge. It's 14 days, and every day is a 10-minute lesson.
Mm.
And it says, when you close your eyes, this is what you want to do. This is how you want to sit. This is what you want to do. This is how you want to set it up. This is what environment you want to be in, which basically means you don't want to be all riled up and right after a fight. You want to already kind of be in a calmer state. You don't want to be agitated and your adrenal glands are going off and then you're going to say, I'm going to meditate now. It's not used to calm yourself down. It's used to practice
Mm.
breaking mentation. So
Mm-hmm.
the class just says, look, this is what you do. This is what's going to happen. This is what you're going to think about. This is how you're going to get over that. This is how you're going to maintain your practice. This is what's normal. Here are some tips on how to get through it. Here are some expectations to have. And if you do this for 6 months, you'll literally change the composition of your brain.
Mm.
It's been clinically studied
Right.
about what happens to your brain when you meditate.
Maybe you'll have a longer attention span, which is one of my concerns about modern life. Having lived half my life without the hyperconnectivity and the mobile device, it feels like we're all at shortened attention span, and everything we go through our day with conversation and our own thoughts in our brain,
Yeah.
racing at the highest speed in the history of humanity.
Well, it's funny is that I always tell people the most important meditation is the one that you do when you don't want to do it. Because again, you're forcing yourself to break the stress mold. And so morning meditation is very difficult for me. I'm a go-getter. I wake up early. I have lots to do. I got phone calls to make. I have lists in my head of things to do. And I wake up and I'm ready to go. And I say, stop,
Mm.
stop, stop, stop. Everything takes a break. Nothing's going to fall apart in 20 minutes. I'm going to show what power I have over my life. And I'm going to meditate right now.
Mm.
And I do it at night. Night's a little bit tougher for me because I'm a little stressed out and a lot more is processing in my day at night. So the night meditations are actually harder to do the meditation, easier to start, harder to facilitate. The morning is the exact opposite. It's really hard to break the day and stop, but the meditation itself is actually very easy.
Yeah, your brain's refreshed, I guess.
Right, from sleep. Exactly. Yeah.
So we go to daverossi.com to enroll in the course.
Yeah, DaveRossiGlobal.com. You can sign up online. It's a very easy delivery system. There are 14 days between 5 minutes to 10 minutes of lecture. There's some homework. We call it, value added exercises, but it's a little bit of homework. And then there's 7 audios that when you're ready to meditate,
Mm,
you listen to those audios. There's lots of pauses. It kind of talks you through it. It kind of reminds you what you're supposed to do. And when you want to meditate, you play those. So a little bit of soft music, but a lot of silence. We're
mm,
trying to work up to a 20-minute silent meditation
mm.
without getting up and vomiting like I used to almost do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love
It's
it.
not easy to do. It takes time.
Yeah. Good stuff, man.
So when
Great
are
to
you gonna
catch up.
when are you starting?
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it just to honor my podcast interview here and your constant reminders and encouragement. I super appreciate it. Maybe I'll have to stack it with my morning routine. It's already so long. It's like, what's another
Well,
20 minutes?
if I have a choice between exercise or meditation, I'll pick meditation first.
Wow. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
And I'm
also,
into
yeah.
fitness.
I'm echoing Deepak Chopra's comment about his daily meditation, which he starts at 4 a.m. and he goes to 6 a.m. every day. And I believe he was asked on the interview I heard, it might have been on Mind Body Green podcast. And the guy said, what about, Dave, what about, don't you need more sleep? And he said that the meditation is more restful than 2 additional hours of sleep. And so he's a more rested human because he wakes up at 4 a.m. and continues till 6 a.m. And I'm like, that's badass level 79. And I can't even imagine that concept, but it's so awesome coming from him. He knows what he's talking about. So, who knows, maybe someday I'll be that guy before the sunrise, taking the first 2 hours of the day to increase my energy vis-a-vis laying in bed,
Yeah.
listening to my ocean sounds.
Well, he had the benefit of Maharaji Mahesh actually teaching him meditation. I mean, he was well known enough, Deepak, to actually have Maharaji teach him.
Mm,
Um, there's a lot of science behind that. I mean, I think he's right that you do get a lot of energy and a lot of rest through meditation.
yeah.
I mean, your brain is a lot of mentation is very taxing and very tiring. And I think
Mm,
meditation would do wonders for you. I think it would
mm,
actually change so much of what you're doing, and it would.
mm.
And I think you have so many great lessons in your podcast. Like I'm stunned at how much one can learn on your podcast. And what's stopping anyone from applying those is their ability to make the choices to follow the advice that people are
Mm,
giving them.
yeah.
If you can't follow the advice, if you can't follow the diet, if you can't eat keto, if you can't stay away from carbs, if you can't stop eating sugar or drinking alcohol, you're going to have a hard time meeting some of this advice, this wonderful life that creates so much value.
Right.
And meditation really is that start to strengthen your I choose muscle, and I'm a big supporter of that.
The I choose muscle. All
Yes.
right. That's Dave Rossi, everybody. Send us your comments, podcast at bradventures.com. Dave and I will talk it over and we'll tee him up for show number 5. It's always fun times. Keep doing what you're doing. And everyone go to Dave Rossi Global and sign up for the course. Let's do this already. It's time.
It's time. It's time for
Dun, dun,
everybody.
dun, 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 dun.